Shannon, one of your student ministries pastors, and welcome to Explore. This is a brand new series where we are going to be exploring stories from the Bible as we learn more about both God and ourselves. Now I wonder, have you ever looked in the mirror and really looked at your image? Have you ever considered, who do I look like? Who do I take after? If you know your biological parents, you may see parts of them reflected in your own image. For me, I know that I have my mom's green eyes and my dad's mouth and my grandma's curly hair. I'm descended from Scottish and Irish ancestors, so I have pretty pale or even pinkish and reddish toned skin that tends to freckle or burn in the sun rather than getting tan. And people say that I sound like my two older sisters when I sing or talk on the phone. And all of this, it doesn't just stop with your physical image either. I love history like my dad, and I love reading books like my mom. My parents are both teachers, and even though I said I never wanted to be a teacher like them when I grew up, I ended up becoming a pastor. And one of the things I spend most of my time doing is teaching students like you about God and the Bible. So in a way, I became kind of like a teacher after all. All the people that came before me, their image is reflected in me. But for those who are adopted, they may wonder, what do my parents look like? Do I take after my mom or my dad? Do I have any siblings? Do I look like them? Some people who don't know their biological parents may never know the answers to these questions, and that's pretty sad. We all have this desire to know whose image we were created in and who we take after. In the Bible, at the very beginning, in the first book, in the first chapter, Genesis chapter 1, we are told that all human beings were actually created in God's image. Here's what it says. Then God said, "Let us make humanity in our image to resemble us, so that they may take charge of the fish of the sea, the birds in the sky, the livestock, all the earth, and all the crawling things on the earth." God created humanity in God's own image. In the divine image, God created them. Male and female, God created them. But what does it actually mean to be created in God's image? Well, first, it means that we have a lot of the same qualities and characteristics of God. Well, no, unfortunately, that doesn't mean that we are all powerful or all-knowing. We can be in all places at the same time. We can walk on water and see across time and space like God. But having the same qualities and characteristics of God means that we have the ability to be creative and imaginative like God. God created the whole entire universe. And anytime we create something like art or music or poetry, we are living out the image of God in our lives. A second way we are like God is that God gave us the ability to lead and take charge. That's what it means in verse 26 when it says, "Let us make humanity in our image to resemble us so that they may take charge." As humans, we can make decisions and think and use logic and reasoning. God gave us intellect and insight, and we can do amazing things with our brains, like send giant telescopes up into space to take pictures of the universe, or create life-saving vaccines and medicines as cures for diseases. God created us with the ability to do all of that and so much more. Another quality that we share with God is our ability to be in deep community and relationships with one another. Now, we're going to talk more about what that looks like in a later session. But the biggest thing about what it means to be created in the image of God is that we belong to God. God created us, and God has laid a claim upon each of our lives. God says, "Yep, that one is mine. I made them, and I love them so much. They are my precious and beloved child." Being created in God's image means that I belong to God, whether I realize it or not, and even whether I follow God or not. However, here's the catch. If I'm created in God's image, and if I belong to God, and if I'm deeply loved and valued by God, that means you are too. And that means everyone is. It also means that the people I don't like, they're also created in God's image. And the people that annoy me, yeah, they're created in God's image too. So God says, Shannon, you belong to me. And that's awesome. That's great news for us. But God also says that the people who really get on my nerves or that bully me or that pick on me, they belong to God too. You see, sometimes people use the image of God in their lives to do really amazing and beautiful things. They create art, they write books, they lead churches, they lead countries, they take a stand against injustice. But sometimes people use the image of God in their life to tear down the image of God in others. They hurt people, they abuse people, they start wars, they create pain. They use their intellect to create bombs and weapons instead of space shuttles and telescopes and medicine. So we have a choice. Well, we really have two choices, really. We can use the image of God in our lives for good, to create beauty and goodness and to spread joy and love, or we can use our creativity to do harm and cause damage. So that's the first choice. Then we can choose to welcome others and give them a place of belonging, just as God has welcomed us and said, you belong to me. Or we can choose to reject the image of God in others, forgetting to recognize that we are all created in the image of God. So what will it be? Will we create beauty or will we create pain? Will we choose belonging or will we choose rejection? I hope that you will live out the image of God in your life and that you will see and identify the beautiful image of God in others' lives too. You belong here. And we'll see you next time in Explore.